What's up, everybody? I'm Justin Maycat from Room 51, where we talk all things board gaming. And today, I'm going to be doing a Roll for Thought. It's a segment where I or Melissa or both of us talk about and discuss anything and everything worth discussing in the board gaming universe. So, this week, we got sent a game from Thunderworks Games Lockup. And upon the awaiting for the game and arrival of the game, we began to think about and discuss what it's like when you're getting a new game, the actual waiting for it, then what you do when you open it, and the actual process of that first playthrough, and how it's probably fairly different from game group to game group, person to person kind of thing. So, with Lockup, I'll hold it up here. Very cool cover and everything, and that was one of the first things that drew me to the game is the cover. And when I found out that we were going to be receiving it, I decided to. I immediately went onto Board Game Geek and I looked at reviews of the game on there, just comments that random users of BGG had, and read through that a bit. Looked at some of the artwork of the game on BGG that was up there. And for this game, I actually didn't watch any reviews of it. I didn't watch any video reviews of it. Some games I do, some games I don't. And one issue that I always have whenever I watch a review of a game before I've played it is the reviewer might have seen something in the game that I'm then going to be looking for when I play it. But when I'm getting really hyped for a game, I sometimes don't hold back. This was a game where I decided I didn't want to watch any reviews. I was excited. I loved the idea, the premise of the game and everything, but I decided I'm not going to look at any reviews for it. And then it finally comes in, super exciting. I love the feeling of ripping off the plastic of the game, that first slide open, and then punching out all the materials. That's like the immediate thing I do. That's the first step. It doesn't matter. Nothing else happens before those two things. And then what I do, before even actually reading the rulebook, I always looked at the player count, and I knew the player count before on BGG, but no matter what, I'll still always double check the player count. And what then I'll always do is, so this game is 1 to 5, I'll always go onto BGG and look at what is like the community recommended and what the community finds best. I'm always curious about that because I want to know what game group size I'm going to want to have for my first playthrough, and I do let that influence me a lot. And I forget what the recommended is for this game, but for example, I don't want to play a game that's 1 to 5 at 2 players, judge my first playthrough. Oh, I just accidentally hit the mic. Judge the first playthrough at a 2-player count when the game is really more of a 3 or 4 player kind of game. And I personally, I know some people that are really bothered by it. I don't mind. I just then view this game as a 3 to 4 player game. Not saying that Lockup is. I haven't played that at 2 or anything. I don't remember what the recommended player count is. But I personally don't mind when the game is, it says 2 to 6, but in reality, you play it at 5 or 6, or the game's kind of eh. I don't really care. I just then think of the game at that player count. That's how I view it. I then go into when it seems like we're getting closer to actually playing the game. We like have either the set date in mind, or we might play it sooner that day, whatever. And I do try to play it as soon as possible because I know what happens. Like if I get hyped for a game, I get it, and then it just sits on the shelf for a while. That definitely happens to us, but I try to get it that we play as soon as possible. I'm definitely bad about that, though. I'm very bad about it. But what I'll always do is once it seems like it's getting close is I'll read the rule book. So I read pretty much cover to cover, unless maybe like the solo variant, I'll skip over those rules, things like that. I try to read them quick, but I'm not a video guy. I don't like watching the how to play for the how to play videos. I'm not into those, and Melissa is. Melissa is into the whole how to play videos. I'm not. What I don't like about them versus reading a rule book is when I'm reading a rule book and I realize like, oh, I've missed something, or I kind of like zoned out a bit, I can easily go back to the point in the book. I don't like rewinding in a video. I hate that. I hate doing that in a video. That's probably my biggest pet peeve, and I also find I just zone out more when watching the how to play videos. So I'm totally a rulebook guy, and I love reading the rulebook. Now, I said how I usually try to read that when we're getting closer to playing. What generally happens is I wind up reading the rulebook twice because I read it that first time and then we wind up not playing the game. And then when we finally do wind up playing the game, I have to read it a second time, which again, I don't mind. I get to read it quicker that second time, and then we kind of all jump in, and I go ahead and I'll teach the game if I'm the one that read the rulebooks and everything. Melissa obviously also teaches a ton of the games. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and I'll teach the game, and I'm a super over explainer. Especially when it's that first play, I essentially go through it the way the rulebook went through it, unless the rulebook did a terrible job, which I can definitely name a few. For example, Locked Up, I really like how Locked Up did it. I was able to just go through the rulebook, and I understood the game by the end of it, and I understood what was happening in the game throughout the rulebook. A game like Pendulum, which we received not too long ago, after reading through that rulebook, what really bothered me was I wasn't understanding why I was reading what I was reading throughout the rulebook until finally at the end, then it all started to kind of click. And then I actually had to go back and kind of reread some stuff because I finally understood what was happening. That's not good. I don't like when that happens. Keep it that whenever I'm reading something in the rulebook, I understand why I'm reading that. You know, don't leave it a mystery that becomes this grand reveal of what your game actually is at the end. That's not good to me. That kind of sucks. Locked Up did not do that. Locked Up did a really good job. Yeah, and then so we go in and we start playing, and generally what happens during the game is I'm doing a ton of rule checks, and then sometimes it'll get to my turn and I'll have to hand the rule book off to somebody else, and they'll have to do the rule check, and we'll be BGG and things. That first playthrough is almost always a rules mess. Almost always. And if it's not, I bet 80% of the time, yeah, let's say 80% of the time, we'll find out afterwards, you know, the next playthrough, something like that, we'll find out, yeah, we did a rule wrong. Especially if it's like a major rule wrong, that'll happen. Twilight Imperium 4, we didn't know that first playthrough that you can only store one public objective per turn. We just kept storing them. So that was a pretty big rule to get wrong. Half of Raccoon Tycoon, that was just, the first half of the game was a mess because every time you produced a piece, it also went up on that price track. So that was totally inflating prices that should not have been shooting up the way they did. But still, even with those rules mess ups and everything, first playthroughs are always fantastic. Even with the amount of rules learning and all that kind of stuff, I love the first playthrough of a game. And it's funny because the first playthrough is usually the most work and it makes it intimidating, but it's a lot of times the most satisfying. It's so cool to finally get that game out and actually play through it and everything. So let me know in the comments below, what is usually the process for when you get that game in the mail? What do you do? What happens? What is that experience like for you? That's what it's like for me. I know Melissa does it a tad differently herself. Maybe she'll come out with a video on how it works for her. But yeah, so let me know in the comments below. What's it like for you? If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more Room 51 content, don't forget to hit subscribe. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at thisisroom51. We also stream every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Room 51 Live on Twitch. We also have a Redbubble in the link below if you want to get any Room 51 merch. All right, till next time, this has been Room 51.